there's purpose planned for me, and I will not die in the midst of my wars, for there's victory.
We got to do a new one. Come on, we still gonna go live tonight. Make your way in. I see you, Tamika, joining. Share this again real quickly so people can connect to this new one. We're starting again, going live again on tonight. Tell somebody I will survive it. Come on, we're going to start again, afresh and anew. I see you coming in. Till you share it real quickly so people can get in on this one right here. For this purpose plan for me. I don't know about y'all. Share this one real fast, real quick. How you doing, Fatia? How are you? Come on in, make your way in, share it real fast. Get as many people in as you can. Excuse my big giant hand. Make your way right on in. It's by his blood I've been set free. How about you? I see you coming in. I see you. 5 different platforms tonight. Share it real quickly. Talking about the pit to the prison experience. How to survive it. I don't know about you, but all I know is I will survive. Somebody shout with me, I will survive. Type it in, I will survive. That's all I know is I will survive. Share this real quickly. Get as many people in as you can. Share it real quickly. Let's get as many people in as you can on tonight. Let's go. It's about that time. We're live. Church is happening in Cyber Sanctuary. God bless you, my friend. Thank you for joining in tonight. This is our Cyber Sanctuary on tonight. This is the time that we gather together to have service. Just because we're not necessarily in the building doesn't mean that we're not gathering together for service tonight. Share this with many people as you can. Either you're watching tonight on Dominion On Demand, our YouTube page, or you're watching at the Dominion Ministries Periscope page, or you're watching tonight on the Dominion Ministries Facebook page, or the Ray Johnson Facebook page, or the Ray Johnson Periscope page. Share this with as many people as you can. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about surviving the pit experience. A couple of housekeeping things before we get started tonight. Listen, I'm excited because the month of June is on its way, and the month of June is coming where we're going to spend some time together. We're going to be talking about restoring the foundations. Our memory verse, Psalms 11:3, says to us this: if the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? If the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? And so with that being the case, tonight, we in the month of June are going to spend some time talking about how to make sure that the foundations maintain being intact. And on tonight, we're going to spend some time talking about Joseph. But listen, the Restoring the Family Conference is coming up on June 21st to the 23rd. $15 for singles, and I believe $25 for couples. And then we've got Vacation Bible School, 26, 27, 28. And then on the 30th of June, we're going to have Dominion Family Fest. Make sure you don't miss it. Father's Day happening, I believe, on June 17th. High school graduations taking place. Make sure you bring a friend with you in the month of June. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be an exciting time as we gather together. So without any further ado, we have had a powerful time, you all, in the series with Joseph, where we've been talking about how to be able to get to your promised place in the palace. And man, was not Sunday a powerful time of learning how to extend grace. Somebody type in, I'm in my grace place in a safe place. I'm in my grace place in a safe place, being able to extend grace. So I thought tonight that we would spend some time tonight doing some questioning and answering as well. But even before we get into that, you know we can't do question and answer. I got to have something concrete to give you tonight. So let me just give you these couple of things. You know what I've learned, you all, is that Joseph, some things that I've learned along the way is that, who is this talking to me? In my grace place. That's right. What I've learned along the way, you all, and things that have been revealed to me, and what I'm really discovering is that my life likened to Joseph, and I'm sure if your life has been likened to Joseph in any way, some things that I've been uncovering is that how you survive the pit and prison experience of your life depends on your perspective. It's all about how you see it. It's all about your perspective. And we often say this, that oftentimes perception can determine reality. And so if our perspective lends itself to impacting whether or not we survive a pit or prison experience, how we see things becomes critically important. And so in looking at the life of Joseph, Joseph had to have a different perspective more than most of us to be able to see what it is that he saw and the different way that he saw it so that he could survive and get to the palace. Now, we don't necessarily know. We know that Joseph is a young man. Maybe some people put him around 17 by the time his brothers put him into the pit. And then he doesn't really come to beginning to reign and rule in Egypt as the prince of Egypt, if you will, if I could say that, the first prince of Egypt, until he's probably in his 30s. And so what in the world? He had to see something different from the way that we see things in surviving our own pit and prison experience. So tonight, I want to talk to you about surviving the pit and prison experience based on your perspective. And so here is something that is interesting about being able to survive it with the right perspective. The question becomes, what informs your perspective, or what informs how you see where you are? Let me say that again. The question becomes, what is it that informs your perspective, and how do you see where you are? Perspective is everything, and perception can sometimes shape and determine our reality. So listen, our perspectives are often formed by these first two T's. Somebody type them in. Training and teaching. Our perspective oftentimes can be formed us to be able to see from God's perspective. Listen, make sure you share this again real fast because I'm jumping in real quick to kind of move through this quickly tonight. So sometimes our perspective is informed by how we see things, how we view things, the way that we understand things. That is critically important. Come on, share this again real fast. I'm going to move through this real quickly because my phone is just acting crazy. Y'all just hanging there with me tonight. So look. Our perspective is formed by two things, training and teaching. Our training and teaching can come from several different areas. 1, body of knowledge and academia. 2, life experience and street smarts. 3, has to do with what's popular in popular culture. So I'll say them again. Teaching and training oftentimes informs our perspective, and teaching and training is sometimes determined by body of knowledge, street smarts and what's going on in popular culture, and life experience. Here is the question. What if the body of knowledge that you are gaining from is off? What if the life experience that you are pulling from is off? What if the street smarts of what's going on in popular culture is off? What happens then if all of that is off? How you see the pit and prison experience will determine how you survive it or not. My God, that's good right there. How you see where you are will determine whether or not you transition where you are. So teaching and training is really critically important because from that we get our standards, y'all. And it's our standards that determine our values. And from that, we end up making some of our decisions. Come on, share this real quickly. I know the last one went out, but real quickly, let me move fast again before my phone acts crazy. Y'all, the second thing that determines or informs our perspective, the second thing, y'all, is trauma. A lot of times, our life experience will lend itself to trauma. The trauma that we experience, the impact that we go through in our lives, and trauma is often fed or led by two things. Y'all watch this. Event-oriented physical impacts. So the events in our lives that have impacted us physically. I had an experience, I won't name necessarily at what level of basketball I was playing at, but had an experience where I literally had a physical altercation with one of my coaches, where it was an embarrassment for me. And in that moment where I had a physical moment with one of my coaches that was an embarrassment for me, my coach is running down the sideline in practice. And those of you who went to school with me at these different levels, you may remember this story, but don't you say nothing because we're on social media. So running along beside me and says to me, Johnson, I cannot put a transistor radio in your ear, about being able to run the plays that he wanted to run. That provided a level of shock for me that took me years to be able to recover from. But now, if I go into every moment trapped by that trauma, that will then inform my perspective of every time I find myself in a difficult space where I may not necessarily survive a pit or prison experience. Somebody type in, I will survive. My God. So teaching and training impacts us, but also trauma impacts us and begins to formulate our perspective of how we see things. And watch this one. That physical trauma that I experienced also had an emotional impact. My goodness, y'all, I'm telling you that trauma can inform your perspective so much to the point where you can get trapped into a crisis and a crucible of your life and always see everything through that lens. And you've got to understand that perspective is everything and perception can inform reality. Come on, somebody type that in. Perspective is everything and perception can inform reality. My God, this is good right here. How you see it determines whether or not you will survive the pit and prison experience. If Joseph is trapped by the pit moment, then Joseph will encounter Potiphar's wife and think that life owes him. Come on back in. Share it again real quick, real fast. Come on back in. Share it again real quick, real fast. We're catching up tonight. We're going to have about 3 or 4 of these tonight. I'm going to work on making sure I get my phone straight. Share it again real fast, real fast, real fast. Share it again real fast, real fast, real fast. So we talked about trauma, and we're talking about how trauma then informs our perspective and how we see. That trauma informs our perspective and how we see. I see y'all sharing it. Come on, share it again over here on this side real fast. Come on, we're going to see if we can get through this one. Listen, the next thing that informs this is, now we talked about emotional impacts, not only event orientation, but we also talk about the emotional impact of the experience that we have that can then inform where we are or where we're headed. Look at this next one. This last one here, y'all, is trying and testing. So there are 3 things that inform our perspective. 1, teaching and training. 2, trauma, both event-oriented physical trauma and emotions. And then the last one is trying and testings. Now, when it comes to trying and testings, what we experience in those trying and testings, we must begin to communicate and ask God, is this a trying and testing moment for me? And Lord, what are you trying to teach me? Watch it, in the trying and testing moment that I'm in. This is critical. If you're going to survive the prison and the pit of your experience, you've got to begin to ask the questions, God, what are you trying to teach me? Or Lord, what are you working on in my life? Or God, how do you want me to change? Or Lord, what is this for? Because the answer to those questions will inform your perspective. Because without those answers, you'll always think that somehow life is against you, or that God is against you, or that people are against you, or that every moment you find yourself in, somebody's automatically always against you. And nothing can be further from the truth. Y'all, we've got to begin to navigate our way through these spaces. I am absolutely certain that Joseph could have had an emotional baggage of an emotional moment of his life that could have informed his perspective. Well, he would have just lost it when Potiphar's wife was lying on him, lost it when Potiphar had to put him in the prison, when the baker and the butler both forget him. He could have not been prepared for the moment to perform in the palace that would make room for his gift if he doesn't get the proper perspective. So perspective is everything, and reality can shape and inform our perceptions. So I just wanted to give you those 3 nuggets tonight about how to survive the pit and how to survive the prison experience of your life, so that when you find yourself in your next critical and crucible moment, you will indeed be able to survive it. So listen, I said I would answer some questions tonight in regards to this. I hope this has been helpful so far. I know we've had 3 different individual ones. Share all 3 of them if you can, because all 3 of them will kind of bring things together for people. And so there are a couple of questions tonight that I want to make sure that I answer for us. And so you can put them in on my personal Facebook page, Ray Johnson. Go to my personal Facebook page real quick, and I'll answer as many of these questions as I can. Let's get started with these on tonight. So, and there are a couple of them in here already. We'll get them done, and then we'll move right on. We'll move right on through these on tonight. So here are a couple of them to get started. Let's see. As this opens up, I see you putting them in. I see you putting them in. Don't necessarily share them on the page, on the feed, but go and put them inside of the inbox on my Facebook page. So here we go. So we focus so much on what we missed out on in the life of Joseph, or what went wrong in our own personal lives based upon what happened to Joseph. Doesn't that show that God has a plan? So let me read it again. We focus so much on what we missed out on in life, or what went wrong based upon what happened to Joseph. Does it show that God has a plan? Keep in mind, and I will first answer absolutely. And this is why I'm talking about perspective tonight is everything. Because when we focus on what we miss out on, ask the other side of that question. What is it that God is keeping you from? How is God protecting you? How is God providing for you? How is God making the way for you? If Joseph never ends up in the pit, let's back all the way up. If he's never sold out by his brothers, he never gets to the pit. Remember the first message we talked about, the Midianites and the Amalekites, and how those 2 groups, they don't even get along with each other, but they end up being involved in the transactions. Sometimes God will allow your enemies to be friends in order to navigate you to get to the place where you need to be. Thus, we get the term frenemy, which is why you got to learn how to ask the questions. So sometimes this thing about getting the right perspective is everything. I hope that helps somebody right there. So oftentimes don't focus on what you're missing out on. Focus on, God, what are you protecting me from? Or God, how are you delivering me? It's all in how you ask, or all in what kind of question you ask. That helps you to make sense of your reality. This is why perspective is so important. And so here it is again. What was the purpose of the pit? The purpose of the pit was to navigate Joseph, to get him to the palace so that he could interpret Pharaoh's dream. Note that God starts out communicating with Joseph through dreams. He starts talking to Joseph through dreams. Remember now, Joseph is going to see his brothers bowing down before him. But the purpose, remember, Joseph gets to the end. He says, y'all meant it for evil, but God sent it for my good. You sold me, but God sent me so that I would preserve life. So when you start to ask God the questions, God, why is this happening? What is this for? What is this designed to produce in my life? When you get those answers, when you ask those questions, it'll help you make sense of your reality. Because remember what I'm saying to you tonight. Perspective is everything, and perception helps to shape reality. Perspective is everything, and perception helps to shape reality. Here we go with another one. What was the purpose he discovered during his pit experience? I believe Joseph learned something about himself that showed up in Potiphar's house. Remember, Joseph is favored by his father. His father gives him a coat of many colors where he wears his favorite. And if I really had time to teach tonight, I would start talking to us about, you can't tell everybody everything about what God says to you. I'm going to say that one more again. You can't tell everybody everything of what God says to you. Because some stuff is for you and some stuff is for the future. And not everybody can handle everything that God says to you. I'm just trying to help you right there. Some stuff you got to keep to yourself about your dream concerning the vision that God gives you. Because not everybody can handle that. And watch this. Not everybody is meant to be a confidant to you. Come here, Jakes. Remember, confidant, comrades, constituents. Remember that right there? And then I added to it, good counsel. Not everybody can offer you good counsel concerning the dream that God has given for you. Because most people are concerned about themselves. And they're trying to figure out, what can I get from you? Okay? So you got to be careful about what you're saying. So watch this. Joseph learned something about himself that I also think was tested in the pit and the prison experience. In the pit, Joseph had to remember God. What if God was getting Joseph away from the pollution of his brothers by putting him in isolation so that God could speak directly to Joseph about the interpretation of his dream to make sense of his reality? So much so that when he gets in Potiphar's house, Potiphar puts him over everything that is in his house. And Joseph doesn't lose his integrity in regards to Potiphar's wife. Ooh. What you do in isolation is what you will do in population. Ha! Lord, help me in here. What you do in isolation is what you will do in population. You ought to type that and write that down. You ought to hashtag that and use it right there. What you do in isolation is what you will do and who you will be in population. In other words, who you are in private is who you gonna be in public. You ain't going to just switch up and change. So Joseph is a man of integrity in the pit, and he's a man of integrity in Potiphar's house, and he's a man of integrity in the prison. My God. He doesn't decide that he's not going to help the butler and the baker just because Potiphar put him in the prison. Joseph used the prison experience to sharpen his leadership skills. How do you work on who you are in your pit? And prison experience determines how well you will function in the palace. I know the Holy Ghost is talking to somebody right there. I got to keep moving because time is almost gone. So listen, next question. What was the pressure Joseph faced in Potiphar's house? Here it is. And can you apply this in a present day context? I just said it. Who you are in private is who you will be in public. Joseph decides, I cannot portray my master. Now, if we want to deal with some parsing of the text there, Potiphar puts everything under Joseph's authority, basically because Joseph's gift works and it helps Potiphar increase in terms of his resources. So Potiphar, Joseph is only second in command to Potiphar in Potiphar's house. Don't nothing move in Potiphar's house unless Joseph say so. And which is a good principle point. And until you learn how to be faithful in somebody else's house in terms of service, God will not be able to give you your own in your own house. Now that will help you in business and relationships. That will help you right there. My God. All right. Let me just keep going. Watch this. So one of the things that's developed in Joseph is how to be a good steward and not take advantage of the owner. How to be a good steward and not take advantage of the owner. In our context, we all got jobs. Do we show up to our jobs on time? And do we leave early? Or do we manage the stewardship of our responsibility like we're part of the board of directors? When we're at home, living in somebody else's house, growing up, do we clean the room like it's our house? Do we tend to it like it belongs to us? Or do we just treat it any kind of way? Do we develop the life skills as a steward to one day become an owner? I know that is good right there. Joseph is learning something. He's developing mastery of all his skill sets along the way. So who you are in private is who you're going to be in public. And have you learned to navigate the difference between being a steward and an owner? I'm almost done. Here's a question. Have you ever felt like you were in a prison, emotional, spiritual, or mental, and God abandoned you? If so, how do you recover from that? That's a good question. Have you ever felt like you were in a prison, emotional prison, spiritual prison, mental prison? I'll even add financial prison. I'll add relational prison to that as well. and God abandoned you? If so, how do you recover from that? Remember, we started out tonight. Here it is again. Perspective is everything, and perception helps to shape reality. So unless you're able to ask God, what is the purpose of this? Why am I here? What led me to this? God, what are you doing in my life as a result of this? Remember this, all those who will live godly in Christ Jesus will suffer persecution. So just because you saved don't mean bad stuff ain't gonna happen to you, especially when you are living for God. If you're living for God in your life, bad stuff is supposed to happen to you. But now God uses persecution in our lives to accomplish his will, maturity in us, witness to other people, evangelism, drawing more people to God through our experience as people are watching us. When you start to ask the right questions about what the purpose for the thing is, that will then help to inform and to shape your reality of what the thing is. I'm getting ahead of myself way into the month of June, because when we start talking about the spiritual house, it's going to be an interesting thing. But now, when you start to get, that's right, God will show us if we wait. If you wait on it long enough, God will bring the revelation to you that will give you the inspiration that will help you in the process. So let me mention this right here. One of the reasons we feel like God has abandoned us is because when we come to pray, we come with an agenda. Oh my goodness. One of the reasons sometimes we feel like God abandons us when he doesn't answer us right away. Here we go. All things work together for the good to them that love God and are called according to the or his purposes. Okay? All things work together for the good to them that love God and are called according to his purposes. God is not obligated to move you in your purpose. God is obligated to move for you when you are in his purpose. This is why I'm telling you, ask the question, Lord, what is the purpose for this thing? What are you trying to do in my life? How are you trying to help me in this area? How are you trying to navigate me to get done what it is that you want? And remember, Jesus said, not my will, Lord, but thy will be done. See, when you learn to align your life with God's purposes, the stuff that you experience will not have a hold on you. What you will have is a hold on the experience. I'll say it again. When you learn to align your life with God's purposes, the stuff that happens to you will not have a hold on you, but you will have a hold on the things that are going on around you and your experiences. So oftentimes when you don't hear anything, then you've got to ask God, am I in line with you? And a lot of times God doesn't speak to us again through his word or impressions of the Spirit. Watch this. Until we have obeyed the last thing he's asked us to do. God is not schizophrenic, and God does not change his mind when he starts a course of direction in our lives, because it's about his purpose, not ours. So two things in that: Lord, am I in alignment with you? And then the second one is this: Lord, second one is this: when you're not hearing anything, God, what are you saying to me about this? Am I in alignment with you? And if you are not hearing anything, check the last thing that God said to you and go back and obey that. When you do that, I promise you, like our good friend Ernest Pugh has said, you will survive. Hey, I'm out of time, but I sure ain't out of word. Listen, surviving the pit experience is about perspective. When you get the right perspective, you will then be able to handle the reality of your moments. Perspective is oftentimes informed by teaching and training, trauma, and also testing and trial. Learn the difference between the three, and you will survive. Listen, no matter what, keep walking in dominion. I hope this helped you. Share this. Get it to a friend. Make sure you share all 4 of them. We'll make sure next time that we gather together that everything is in order. See you in the month of June. This is Nehemiah's Nook. This weekend, need everybody and their mother to show up so that we can be the hope, help, and hands of Jesus in our weekend hospitality house. Time 9 until 11. Make sure you get in there by 8:30 p.m. so we can help set up. 8:30 a.m. I should say. Listen, hope this was a blessing to you. Share it with a friend. God bless you. Remember, I will survive. You will survive. Keep walking in dominion.